So to start today with, the difference and comparative analysis between personal branding vis-a-vis company branding. And by the way, let me point out initially at the onset that this particular knowledge that I'm trying to, spread is a kind of, firstly, a philanthropic exercise, and also I would like to say that the knowledge is not something which is there in the public domain as explicit knowledge. This is implicit knowledge gained by solving multiple real-time problems. And this can be applied, has been applied in the past by us, and it has been a win-win situation. Now, coming back to the advanced applied strategic IP management that we are doing in the context of disruptive incubation as a service, it is important to understand the significance of contextual programming. And the reason we talk always about contextual programming is to make you understand how important it is to understand the context and be context aware. You can always think in terms of contextual analysis or context dependent analysis or context sensitive analysis, but context awareness is very, very important, which is more or less on the same lines as contextual analysis or context dependent or context based analysis. Okay, and context awareness is actually important for the standpoint of understanding the method that you need to adopt in order to do the best possible branding. In this particular case, as I am discussing about company branding versus personal branding. Now, if you understand, company is a mixed entity. It's actually a mixed asset type, where the company can pile up, build, operate, and manage real assets, intellectual property assets, physical assets, and human assets, and many other assets can be there. Now, at the same time, personal branding is actually about an individual. So when you talk about a company, there are many people who form the company. Apart from the people who are at the CXO level, they may be the owners. And this particular entity can be treated as a many group, comprising of many entities, live and non-live entities also. But personal branding talks about a person who is actually a live entity and maybe owning, building, operating, and owning or managing assets, which are again real intellectual and physical assets. The important point to understand here is, despite the fact that these two are entities, separately, one is an individual entity, the other is a mixed asset type or a mixed entity. It is important to understand that when you come to do branding, personal branding, what happens exactly in companies which are actually bootstrap funded, it is a human tendency that if you are actually the majority stakeholder in the presence of some personal or so I would like to correct myself, private or internal shareholding plan, if you are the majority stakeholder and the majority investor, you think that things should move in and around me. And that is the final strategy, because it's actually, you want to run the company on your whims and fancies. That's not actually right, because tomorrow, if you are looking forward to a situation where you are doing personal branding from the perspective of business or just for namesake, you can do two types of personal branding. One is for business purposes, that is where monetization comes into picture, and the other is namesake, where you may not be, converting that into, any kind of, making money out of it. In that scenario, it is important to understand that if at all it is business perspective and you want to monetize the brand tomorrow by selling or licensing the assets that you have built, or basically the valuation of the brand, it is important to understand that personal branding should be done where all the stakeholders involved in a given business, say for example, if you are doing a business which is individual based consultancy, or it is a kind of company which is a sole proprietorship firm, and you are dealing in a particular market, you are rendering services, it is important to involve all the stakeholders in that particular service market, where the stakeholders can actually go for prospecting and they can vet your brand or the branding strategy that you are trying to adopt. It's very important. At the same time, and when it comes to company, the company is actually, as I mentioned earlier, it's a mixed entity or a mixed asset type, and also comprises of multiple individuals who are together forming the company. So it is important to understand the contribution of each of the individuals or each of the human assets in the entire building exercise of the IP assets or real assets or physical assets, and it has to be proportionally divided, and contribution of each of the entities live entities in the entire process is very, very important. Whereas in personal branding, this is not the case. You have to actually be a sole contributor. And if you think that if I'm doing business, I'm going to do business and monetize my brand, it is still important in personal branding context that you involve stakeholders in the business that you are doing and let them contribute accordingly. Thank you.